Welcome to Finding Holiness, where we delve into timeless Torah wisdom, revealing the sacred in everyday moments. Join us on a journey to elevate your spirituality and discover holiness in every aspect of life. I'm your host, Rabbi David Kadosh, and together, let's embark on a path of spiritual exploration. I hope you enjoy this next episode. All right, Erev Tov, everybody. Continuing with some of the positive commandments that one would transgress if a person speaks Lashon Hara. We had a very powerful shiur yesterday. I encourage everybody to have a listen if you weren't here. But he continues with the 8th positive commandment. Ve'im al mi shemesaper Lashon Hara o harechilut hu zaken. If the person who you are speaking about, your Lashon Hara, happens to be an elderly person, ve'ginau bazeh befanav, and you demeaned him in his presence, afilu hu zaken ama'aretz, even if this person who is elderly is an ama'aretz, meaning he's not learned, he's just a regular guy. Od al mitzvah taseh de vehadarta pene zaken. You would be transgressing the positive commandment of honoring the presence of a zaken. Ve'af shezaken tikra haynu chacham, even though the word zaken, the term zaken in this pasuk in Kiteseh refers to a Torah scholar. Hay ve'adarta persu razal. Chachamim explain that the commandment to honor goes on, the word vehadarta goes on, de'aseva dilfanav namikai. The word, the previous phrase before vehadarta pene zaken is mi pene seva takum. Mi pene seva takum, you have to stand up for an elderly person. Vehadarta also goes on the previous term. So you showing honor also applies not only to the Torah sage, which is the zaken, but to the seva, which you've stood up for. And if you were to speak lashon hara or rechilut about an elderly person, you would not be showing them honor clearly. Shehidur hu devarim hu kibud devarim. What is honor? Honor is verbal respect. Dehainu ledaber lo bederech kavod ve'adnut. You speak to an elderly person in a respectful manner. Ubimkom shemeganehu, and when someone demeans an elderly person, bevadayeno mehadero, certainly he's not honoring him. He therefore is transgressing the commandment. V'chen imhu chacham. If the same would apply if the subject is a tamid chacham, afilu eno zaken, a tamid chacham who is not old. Over agamken al mitzvat aseh, he would be transgressing this positive commandment. De zaken dikra haynu chacham. Because like I said, the word ve'adarta pene zaken here, zeh shekana chochma, is in reference to a Torah scholar. Kedashina zeh shekana chochma. Ulvad, besides this, we often come to violate this prohibition, of debasing a Torah scholar as well. A person who will go and debase a Tamid Chacham in his presence is often put into the category, should be put into the category of an apikoris. He says we're going to elaborate later on this in the 8th rule. If one speaks Lashon Hara about an elderly person who also is a Torah scholar, he's transgressing ve'adarta twice. Okay, so that is number 8. Number 9. Ve'im al mi shemesaper hu kohen. Let's say you speak negatively about a kohen. Ve'ginau bazeh befanav. And again, you demeaned him in his presence. Over gamken al mitzvat aseh de vekidashto. There's a positive commandment on sanctifying the kohen, sanctifying Hakadosh Baruch Hu, which are his messengers, are the kohanim. Which we are obligated to treat kohanim with great respect. So again, if a person speaks Lashon Hara or rechilut about a kohen, clearly he's not giving the proper reverence and respect, and he would be transgressing this. More than a regular person, yes. In addition to a regular person. Again, so if you speak Lashon Hara about any person, you're over Lashon Hara for sure. But now it's an additional positive commandment of not showing the proper respect to a kohen, which we do many times throughout our day. We give the first aliyah, you give them the respect to do a birkat kohanim and the zimun. There's a lot of places where we give respect to a kohanim, is bada and halacha. So too, you have to, in this situation, you show him lack of respect by degrading him, you would be transgressing that as well. Number 10. Ve'im hu achiv hagadol. If the subject is your older brother, O ba'al imo, or your mother's husband. I mean, it's not your father, it's just your mother's husband. O eshet aviv, or your father's wife. Over gamken al mitzvat aseh de kibud. You would be transgressing the positive commandment to honor one's parents. Ditrabu meribuya ve'et. Because the kabed et avicha ve'et imecha also comes to include, the word et comes to include your father's wife, even though she's not your mother, or your mother's husband, even though he's not your father. Also includes their stepfathers, stepmothers as well as father-in-law and mother-in-law is included. Kedamrina biktubot, who is saying maseh ktubot. So again, if you speak Lashon Hara about them, you would be transgressing one of the 10 commandments of kabed et avicha. V'kol sheken im chas v'shalom al avi ve'imo mamash. All the more so if you speak about your father, your mother, your biological parents. Vaday over mitzvat aseh de kibud avaim. Certainly, you'll be transgressing that commandment. Milvad kol zeh over gamken al arur makle avi ve'imo. Then you will be transgressing also the curse in Parashat Ki Tavo. Cursed is one who disgraces his father or mother. Hashem yishmerenu, may Hashem protect us. Okay, number 11. Ve'al kulam, above and beyond all of these. Over od. Al mitzvat aseh. You will be transgressing the positive commandment of et Adonai Elohecha tira. You shall fear Hashem your God. There's a positive commandment in the mitzvah. Some say it's one of the greatest mitzvot that we have to perform is yirat Hashem, fearing God, being awe of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shehuzharnu bazeh liro milifnei Hashem yibarach kol yemei chayenu. Where we have to be careful to be fearful of Hashem every day of our lives. Uvevo ma'aseh liyadenu. So when an opportunity to do something wrong comes into our hand, we have to rouse our spirit and remind ourselves that Hashem is monitoring everything that people do. And He metes out retribution according to the severity of the offense. And just thinking about that will prevent a person from violating the Ratzon of Hashem, the will of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Certainly someone who is, he calls it mafkir et nafsho, he's abandoning his soul to commit this sin of Lashon Hara, bitel asezu, you are contravening, you are nullifying this positive commandment of et Hashem Elohecha tira. He does here have an edit in his Hagahot. While on the subject of fearing Hashem, he writes, Amarti le'azhir od, I thought maybe to add something else. Which, again, I find to happen very often in our generations, in his generation at least. To transgress, where people transgress the name of Hashem in vain. Which emerges from this positive commandment, if you look in Gemara Masechet Tmura. The scenario I'm referring to is where, let's say you have Reuven, many at times observe how Shimon is so upset, or he's incensed about something that was done not according to the Torah law. Ben adam lamako, ben adam lachavero, whether it's between man and Hashem or man and his friend. So Shimon is protesting. He's very upset as to something that he saw. And we often find by people who are Baal Lashon Hara, people that love to speak Lashon Hara, in this case Reuven, he's going to ridicule Shimon for taking such a strong stance. Look at this guy Shimon. He all of a sudden now he's the big rabbi. He's the guy who's taken upon himself this cloak of godly fear, of piety. All of a sudden he's taking vengeance for Hashem. He's a hypocrite. That guy Shimon, he sins more than the other guy. Okay? How many times have you heard this? Okay, so he's more of a sinner than the person he spoke against. Reuven will continue to relate this about all of the things that Shimon does wrong. Now, with regard to this guy, Reuven, this mocker, certainly we can use the phrase avera goret avera, which one sin leads to another sin. Because of what happens with the Lashon Hara, that by recounting all of Shimon's mishaps and his actions, misdeeds, Nigrar gamken leisur hotza Hashem shamayim levatala. Now he's uttering God's name in vain. Kemo shenifsak beYoreh De'ah, as is brought down in Yoreh De'ah, that one of the names of Hashem is Hashem Tsevaot. Tsevaot is one of the names of Hashem. Gamken hu mishiva shemot she'enam nimchakim. It cannot be erased. So this guy, Reuven, when he was relating the Lashon of Shimon, he was saying this guy seems to represent Hashem Tsevaot, and he's mentioning God's name often. Gam ken Shem Gamurhu. It's a full-fledged name. Ureaya mishavuot b'mishnah, as is evident in the Mishnah in Shavuot, that says Mashbieni alechem b'tzvaot. If a person swears with the name Tzevaot, which implies that he's using Hashem's name as well. Velo kam kasha lezeh Gemara midi, and the Gemara does not challenge it at all. V'yadua ma'amar Chazal, and the Chachamim tell us Godel onsho shel askarat Shem Shamayim levatala. The punishment is so severe for mentioning Hashem's name in vain. A person who does that should be excommunicated. That is what nidui is. And he becomes impoverished, heaven forbid, because as it's brought down in Masechet Nedarim, therefore someone who's concerned for his spiritual welfare should distance himself from uttering Hashem's name in vain. I think one of the reasons why one of the punishments is that a person becomes impoverished is because the combination of Hashem's name of Yud Kei Vav Kei, which is 26, and the way you pronounce it, which is Aleph Dalet Nun Yud, okay, is 65, and 65 and 26 is 91. 91, of course, the combination of those two names is the first three letters of Poteach et Yadecha, Pei, Aleph, Yud, which is the kavanah that you're supposed to have when you say that pasuk. Is to think about that. It's one of the three letters of Hashem's grand name of 72 letters, and that's a kavanah you're supposed to have. It's a name that really is connected to Parnasah. So if a person is misusing the name of Hashem by saying it in vain, you're basically taking part of that name and throwing it out the window. I don't want anything to do with your Parnasah. Hashem goes, okay, fine. This is what you think of my name. You're using it whenever you want. I'm going to show you. I'm going to impoverish you. Chas v'shalom. It's a very serious thing that the Chafetz Chaim, although not directly connected to Lashon Hara, but often does happen as people get upset and they speak ill about somebody else, they'll often bring Hashem's name in it, and that is something that we have to stay away from.